chapter, text 44, I believe, right? Text 44. Text 44, right?
Yeah, it's up here.
Doesn't say it up there. So, some things I wrote. It's okay. Okay, so everyone can, well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think Bhogasvarya Prashaktam, that is covered by Prabhuji last time.
This is what Jiva told me. This is what I prepared for.
This is.
She does this to me.
Ganapati Govind said, Bhagavad
So,
Gita 44 onwards today.
He said 244 onwards.
Today.
Ganapati Govind. Where is he? You guys should fight it out.
Jagannath Priya did do 42 and 43 together, and you also read the 44th one.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll do 5. We can adjust because
We're adjustable.
That's
That's how I understood it. Wouldn't you? 244.
Read it again.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Bhagavad Gita 244 onwards today.
Yeah. Anyway, Ganapati Govind did write that 244 onwards today, which in English means 244.
Okay, Prabhu. I think I get that.
We'll do 245, which is also a really nice verse. Although, anyway, that's okay. I'll get back at him some other time. Okay,
I think it's a matter of different kind of English.
Yeah.
Indian English, American.
Does that make sense in Indian English?
He probably does. He
You
means
don't
like
know.
after 44, 244.
So, I remember one joke.
He didn't say after 44. He said from 244, from 244
Onwards means after 244, I think is what it means.
244 onwards. Anyway, go ahead, Rasaraj.
I mean, what I'm saying, right? I remember one incident. One day, Pranath Govind Prabhu has to give class for Sunday program, and he's supposed to give on different verse, but somehow he prepared other verse. Then he came about to start. I said, no, this is not the verse. Then he said, that doesn't matter. I have to say, whichever verse you give, I will speak the same thing. So I can do that. I mean, Krishna is a supreme personality Godhead, so we can't change that, right? So I'm going to tell that only. So he said,
that sounds like Pranath Govind.
Okay, so this is 245, or does anyone object?
So Prabhuji will say chant Hare Krishna.
What did she say?
So Ganpati, Pranath Govind Prabhu will say Hare Krishna, like that, chant Hare Krishna. That's it.
We're going to do the next verse. We're going to make everybody happy. Maybe. Or maybe unhappy. Okay. So everyone can repeat Trigunya Vishaya Veda.
Trigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nidvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Nidvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Yoga Kshema Atmavan.
Yoga Kshema
Atmavan. Trigunya Vishaya Veda. Trigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nidvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Nidvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Yoga Kshema Atmavan.
Yoga Kshema Atmavan.
Trigunya Vishaya Veda.
Trigunya Vishaya Veda.
Trigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nidvandvo nitya sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo
Nitya
nityasattvasto.
Niryogaksema atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Atmavan.
Vaigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvanda Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Yoga Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya. Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan. Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunya
Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto. Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan. Traigunya Vishaya. Okay, go ahead.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvanda Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Sounds like a broken record.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nityadvando Nityasattvasto.
Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo nityasattvasto.
निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्
निर्योगक्षेम
निर्योगक्षेमात्मवान्
त्रैगुण्य विषय वेद
त्रैगुण्य
त्रैगुण्य
विषया
विषय भेद
वेदा
निश्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन
निस्त्रैगुण्य
निस्त्रैगुण्यो
भवार्जुन
भवार्जुन
निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थो
निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थो
निर्गुणस्तस्थो
निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्
निर्योगक्षेम
निर्योगक्षेम
आत्मवान्
आत्मवान्
त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदा
त्रैगुण्य
त्रैगुण्य
विषया
विषय भेद
वेदा
त्रैगुण्यो
निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन
निर्वन्दो सत्त्वस्थो
निर्द्वन्द्वो
निर्द्वन्द्वो
नित्यसत्त्वस्थो
नित्यसत्त्वस्थो
निर्योगक्षेमात्मा
निर्योगक्षेम
निर्योगक्षेम
आत्मवान्
आत्मवान्
Trigunya,
त्रैगुण्य
त्रैगुण्य
pertaining to the three modes of material nature.
pertaining to the
to
three
the
modes
three
of
modes
material
of
nature.
material nature.
Vishaya,
Vishaya,
Vishaya
on the subject matter.
on the
on the
subject
subject
matter.
matter.
Vedaha,
Veda,
Vedaha,
Vedic literatures.
Vedic
Vedic
literatures.
literatures.
Nistraigunyaha,
Nistraigunyaha,
Traigunnaha,
transcendental to the three modes of material nature.
transcendental to the three
transcendental
modes
to
of
the
material
three modes
nature.
of material nature.
Bhava,
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 B,
P,
Arjuna,
P,
Arjuna,
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 O
O
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
Nidvandra,
Nirdvandva,
Nitandra,
without duality.
without
without
duality.
duality.
Nitya Sattvastaha,
Nitya
Nitya
Sattvastha,
Satyastha,
in a pure state of spiritual existence.
in a
in
pure
the
state
pure
of
soul
spiritual
of
existence.
spiritual existence.
Niyoga Kshemaha,
Niryoga Kshemaha,
Yoga Sanasa,
free from ideas of gain and protection.
free from
free
ideas
from
of gain
ideas
and
of gain
protection.
and protection.
Atmavan,
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 established in the self.
established in the self.
established in the self.
Translation. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature, O Arjuna. Become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in this material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth. And by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Devase Sasanyavadi Pastacha Desatarani. Let's see the verse again. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavajuna Nidvandro Nitya Sattvasto Yoga Shema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities, and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So this, of course, all these verses in Bhagavad Gita, but this verse and even the last few verses are really good for getting an understanding of what the Bhagavad Gita is about and what and how we should act in this material world. Actually, the last few verses were pretty good. But in this particular verse, they talk about the Vedas. We talk so much about the Vedas, you know. Vedaischa savam ham eva vedyo vedanta krit veda veda eva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I'm the compiler of Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. So the ultimate purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. But most of the Vedas don't deal with that. A very small portion of the Vedas deal with that. Most of the Vedas deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. How to enjoy in goodness, how to enjoy in passion. I don't know if it's how to enjoy in ignorance, but how to get out of ignorance so you can get to the passion and enjoyment. Because in ignorance, all the enjoyment is actually, according to the Bhagavad Gita, there's no enjoyment from the beginning or the end. It's just a total illusion in ignorance. Just like getting intoxicated, people that in the mode of ignorance. Intoxication is the mode of ignorance. So there's no pleasure in the beginning, the middle, or the end when you get intoxicated. There's this illusion, you feel nice, but then you just make a complete fool of yourself, and then you wind up in a worse situation afterwards. Or laziness and sleep are the mode of ignorance. You know, people like to sleep, you know, it feels good to sleep, forget about all your problems, but it's just in the mode of ignorance, ignoring. So you're not really enjoying it, at least in the mode of passion. In the beginning, there is pleasure, but then that pleasure turns to poison. You know, people sense gratification. You get some pleasure. I mean, you get something that tastes really good and you eat it and you eat it and you get so full and you don't digest it and you get sick. So it turns into poison, not literally poison that you're going to die from it, but that there's suffering. Or a boy meets a girl and it's just heavenly. It's so wonderful. And then after a while they hate each other. So it turns into poison. So this is the material world, happiness in the mode of passion. And happiness in the mode of goodness is, you know, enjoying more refined type of things, but it's still conditioned. And you become conditioned by the concept of happiness. You become conditioned in the mode of goodness because you think that you're enjoying better than everyone else. Everyone in the mode of passion, that's not real enjoyment. In the mode of ignorance, that's certainly very degraded. That's not happiness. But I'm enjoying. I go to the country, I sit down, I look at the trees, I take it. I mean, it's nice. But that's the mode of goodness, and you're still conditioned. You're not pure. I mean, when you're in the and most of us, pretty much everybody, we're not in any particular mode fully. We're not fully in the mode of ignorance or fully in the mode of passion or fully in the mode of goodness. We're in, it says the modes are fighting for supremacy. So one wants to, and most of the time you say, well, this person's in the mode of passion because they're mainly in the mode of passion. Or this person is in the mode of goodness because they're mainly in the mode of goodness. But it's not like they're always in goodness or they're always in passion. Years ago, it was more that way. So there's what is called Sudasattva or pure goodness. Pure goodness is where you're not affected by passion or ignorance at all. You're just always in goodness. And that's the transcendental plane. That's not material. So here, the Vedas deal with the three modes. The three modes deal with this material world. Every one of those three modes is dealing with the material world. The only one that's not, it's not one of the three modes. It's Sudasattva, pure goodness, and that's transcendental. And when you're in Sudasattva, you don't base anything on anything material. You don't have any conception of enjoying separate from Krishna. This is the transcendental plane. So, but the Vedas don't deal very much with that. It mostly deals with the three modes. It mostly deals with how to be happy in this material world by performing some sacrifice, depending upon what you want. If you want good health, you can worship the sun god. If you want a good wife, you can worship goddess Umi, or I'm not sure, Uma. And you can get different things from different demigods. You have to learn how to worship. You do these fire sacrifices, you offer things where you come out and the sun just comes up and you offer certain types of prayers. I mean, there's so many things to please the different demigods. And there's 33 million different demigods. I don't know if they talk about all 33 million of them in the Vedas, but there's a huge number of very influential demigods who you can worship for different things. And the Vedas deal with that. And you can get what you want. But that's not the purpose of the Vedas. And if you only use the Vedas just to do that, it's a complete waste of time. Even Narada Muni told Vyasadeva, when he wrote all the Vedic literatures, that in one sense you did a disservice, telling all this stuff. He said, you haven't sufficiently broadcasted the glories of the Lord. So broadcasting the glories of the Lord was what he had to do. And at that point, he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So there's a tree of Vedic knowledge. You can get anything from this tree, but now this is the ripened fruit. That's the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that deals with the Lord and his devotees. So that is transcendental literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he wrote that when he was mature in his whole understanding. And what did he do? He did the right thing. He went to his spiritual master. It's like you're doing all this service, and then all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden, but after doing all this service, you're still not happy. Why? I mean, I should be feeling pretty good. I did such a wonderful thing, and I don't feel good. So instead of, just going down the street and going to a bar and having a drink or some other nonsense, he did the right thing by approaching his spiritual master, and he explained to him, I did all of this, all of these works, and I'm still feeling despondent. I'm still not feeling satisfied. Why? I mean, what more can I do? And then he said, well, in one sense, you did a disservice because you just talked about everything dealing with the three modes of material nature and how to achieve material happiness through the Vedas. And that's not really going to help anyone. It doesn't help anyone. The only time it helps someone is if by doing that, they gradually make progress and eventually come to Krishna. If they don't come to Krishna, then it's a complete waste of time. It's not any benefit at all. There's no spiritual benefit from it unless you ultimately come to Krishna. When I say ultimately, it doesn't have to be in this life. It may be the next life, or 100 lives from now, but you're gradually making progress. But if you don't ever come to that, it's a waste of time. It doesn't matter if you're using the Vedas or trying to get sense gratification just materially. We don't need the Vedas now. We got the stock market. We got so many things we could invest in, make money. We can get a good education, get a good job, make money, get sense gratification. I mean, that's what people think of is how money is going to make you happy, because they think they can enjoy sense gratification. There's economic development. People want economic development so then they can enjoy sense gratification. And then after enjoying sense gratification, eventually they come to the point of not being satisfied, and then they want liberation. But but the only purpose for that people, other than devotees, want economic development is so they can enjoy sense gratification. But for devotees, you can use it in Krishna service, or we can just use it to maintain our family, and extra we can use for spreading Krishna consciousness. We don't have to live so opulently, just buying every new gadget that comes out. So in any case, as devotees, there's the big difference between the devotees and the non-devotees. Even though they may seem like they're doing the same thing, they're both working, they're both buying things in the stores, shopping. I remember shopping in a supermarket and selling Bhagavad Gita. Sorry, I wasn't shopping. I was selling Bhagavad Gitas, maybe not even Bhagavad Gitas, but Krishna conscious literature. I don't remember what book I was selling. So I approached this lady and I'm showing her the book. And she says, "Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" And I said, "I'm positive I'm supposed to be here." And I didn't say this, but I was thinking, you're the one that shouldn't be here, is buying all these things for sense gratification. But I didn't say that because I wanted to try to sell a book. But the way I said it, she was definitely convinced that I was positive I was supposed to be there. Of course, the store didn't give me permission to be there, but Krishna wanted me there because they were trying to sell his books. So, okay, almost a half hour is gone. So the Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature, rise above the modes, be transcendental to them, and be free from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So this is what the Vedas deal with, and we have to get to the essence of the Vedas, and that means coming to surrendering to Krishna. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, beginning, there's so many things, and then ultimately he says, "Give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, and I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear." In Bhakti Siddhanta, someone asked, why, when the conversation with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, did Lord Chaitanya reject that as not being the highest? And Bhakti Siddhanta replied, just like if you have a son and you tell your son, if you do this for me, I'll give you this. That's more like business. It's not like a real good son. A good son does it, whether he's going to get something or not get something. So Krishna shouldn't have had to say, he should have said, give up all varieties of religion and do what I tell you to do. That's it. He shouldn't have said, if you do, then I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Because Arjuna may have been thinking, well, what if I commit sins? So he told him that. But actually, a higher point would be, it doesn't matter if there's sins. Like the gopis didn't care when Krishna had a headache and the dust from the devotees' feet were the only thing that were going to cure a headache. And he went to different devotees and asked for the dust from their feet to put on his head, and no one would do that because that's pretty offensive, putting the dust from your feet onto Krishna's head. But the gopis, when they found out that he needs the dust from the devotees' feet to get rid of his headache, immediately took the dust for their feet to put on his head. And then when asked, but don't you know, you go to hell by putting the dust from your feet on Krishna's head? And their response was, I don't care if I go to hell. Krishna has a headache. We have to help him get rid of his headache. So that's the highest. The gopis are the highest. But even that verse isn't the highest. We should be willing to do what Krishna wants, whether or not we're getting anything in return, whether or not we're going back to the spiritual world. And we should want to go back to the spiritual world. But at the same time, we should get to the position where it doesn't matter. Just as long as I'm doing what Krishna wants me to do, that's satisfying enough to me. Srila Prabhupada, I really doubt whether he came here to America so that he can go back to the spiritual world. He can go back to the spiritual world just staying exactly where he was in Vrindavan. He said, you don't know how happy I was living in Vrindavan. He gave all that up to come to this horrible place that a lot of Indian people today want to come to. But at the time, there were, very few Indian people here. But a transcendentalist coming to this place after living in Vrindavan. When he came, his first thoughts was, everybody here seems to be in the mode of passion and ignorance. He didn't see anyone in goodness. At least in India, he saw people in goodness. But he came, and he came to preach. And he didn't come to preach so that he can go back to God. He came to preach to please it, to follow the instructions of his spiritual master. Now, of course, by doing that, he did experience a great pleasure because he got so many people surrender to Krishna, and that gave him pleasure. And when they surrendered to Krishna, and he was very satisfied that he was able to do that and please his Guru Maharaj, who very much wanted that to happen. So, I mean, I'm not saying we're on this platform, but we should know at least what the highest platform is. And we should know that I'm a little short of that, but I want to try to get there. And sometimes we might think that way, just like when we're doing some service and it's really big service and we're working so hard and there's so much anxiety. And we think, I don't care if I'm in anxiety. I don't care how much difficulty there is for me. The only thing I'm concerned with is that the service is successful and the devotees are happy and satisfied with the service. You know, so that's a higher platform. But we can get to that, even if we're only there at times. But at least we should know what the highest is, and then we can strive for it. And we shouldn't settle for less. You know, we all are not at that platform, and we shouldn't start beating ourselves like, oh, I'm so fallen, I'm useless. That's just Maya, another way of Maya getting you not to surrender to Krishna. You just accept, this is where I am now, but I'm going to do something for Krishna. And that's it. You just do it. Do what you can. And eventually you can do more and more until you finally come to samadhi, which was the previous verse that I read about. You can reach samadhi, which means basically samadhi is Krishna consciousness, being conscious of Krishna all the time. No conscious of any sense gratification, not conscious of trying to enjoy separate from him. Very high elevated position, extremely high. It's the highest position, samadhi. But that's what we're trying for. It's International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We're trying to become Krishna conscious. And we're becoming Krishna conscious little by little. And hopefully we get some special mercy at the time of death and we go back home, back to Godhead. But if not, we come back again and continue where we left off. Before I read anything else, does anyone have any questions? You have to press that unmute button if you do have any. Okay, anyone have any comments? Okay, I don't even know what the next verse is because I didn't even know what that verse was because I read the previous one. Oh, that's a long purport. I think I'll do something else. Kind of go over the last couple of verses. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So both things here. One is these men of small knowledge, they want to enjoy sense gratification. By wanting sense gratification, you can't get that resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And that the Vedas deal mainly with this same subject of material modes of material nature. And one must learn, one must, where is it? Be free from all dualities. Become transcendental to these three modes. That's what I wanted to say. And be free from all dualities and all anxieties for gaining safety and be established in the self. Free from all anxieties for gaining safety. It's interesting. I'm going to read something in the purport. I'll read it from the beginning until I get to where it is. All material activities involve actions and reaction to the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with the fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. So it's gradually get free from sense gratification. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself in the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. So this is the beginning of spiritual life, is asking questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? All living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. Okay, maybe it's actually in a verse here. Vedas deal with the subject three modes. Become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxiety for getting safety, be established in itself. Well, I guess I'm going to read the last paragraph in the purport. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and be tolerating, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxiety regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness, when one is fully dependent on the good will of Krishna. I was thinking, I don't know where I read this, maybe I didn't read it here. But dependence, that we have to become free from the dualities and from anxieties for gain and safety. So we want to be safe. We have to just depend on the Lord. And even dependence on the Lord is not, it's not, I mean, we can depend on the Lord even for material things, but we're not like guaranteeing. You just depend on the Lord and he's going to take care of you in all circumstances. He does take care of you, but it's spiritual. He takes care of you. Just like, okay, I'm surrendered to the Lord, so nobody can kill me. No, they can kill you. It's whatever the Lord wants. It's like Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm surrendered to you. If you want me to live, no one can kill me. If you want me to die, no one can save me. It's whatever you want, because I'm fully surrendered to you. It's whatever you want. So when one is actually surrendered to the Lord, dependent on the Lord, they're dependent on the Lord for everything, whatever you want. If you want me to be hungry, I'll be hungry. If you want me to not have good clothes or have hardly any clothes, all ripped up clothes, then I'll have ripped up clothes. I don't care. Main thing is I got to just think of you, and I'm satisfied with that. I mean, these are very advanced pure devotees who would think this way, but we have to not depend on anything in this material world, because this material world, depending on anything here, is a false security. You think you're secure, but you're not, because it can all end. Just like people are dependent on their social security checks. Right now, they're getting them, and they may get them in the future too, or it can stop. You're depending on that. You can't have any dependence on the material world. Or some other country can take over the United States. It seems impossible. but anything is possible. And the United States has had a beginning and it's going to have an end. It's anything that has a beginning has an end. So we can't depend on anything in this material world, but we can depend on Krishna. And Krishna, he takes care of his devotees. Even we read about Sudam Brahman. He had nothing. And when he came to him and he saw, this is my friend and he has nothing. Why is that? It's, he's my devotee. Why does he have nothing? But then he realized, or he heard, I don't remember how he found out, of course he's all knowing, but that Sudam Brahman did not want opulence because he was afraid if he had opulence, then he may fall in Maya. So if the devotee does not want opulence, then Krishna doesn't give it to him. Otherwise, he generally gives his devotees opulence. As long as they're not going to fall into Maya, he gives them opulence. So that was the reason. But then he gave opulence anyway because he was advanced enough. I don't know why he gave it to him afterwards. Well, we know that he deserved it. It's a pastime. And his wife was it's not that she didn't want any opulence. Even she didn't want it. She wanted it for her husband because he was such a good Brahmin. So Krishna did give him opulence, but he did think about why he didn't have it. So generally devotees, they have enough. They live fine. They're not, some of them may be materially poverty stricken according to the economic situation in the particular rich country they might be in, but they get all they need and they're completely happy and satisfied, at least materially. And this is real devotees, because if you're not so surrendered, you're never going to be happy and satisfied, because there's always going to be longings and hankerings. So in order to actually be happy, you have to be dependent on Krishna, not dependent on anything in this material world, not dependent on the stock market, not dependent on your husband, not dependent on your wife, not dependent that your kids are going to take care of you. None of these things are any sure thing. The only thing that's a sure thing is Krishna. Krishna will take care of you. So we have to feel dependent on him. Okay. This is the last chance. We're going to end early, otherwise. I have nothing to say. I studied for a different verse. Of course, I had a lot to say and I talked fast. I'm a little disappointed nobody showed me their
Hare
face.
Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances always to Prabhupada.
Hari
Thank
bol.
you very much for that powerful talk. I'm
Yeah.
actually scared. That's why I didn't ask you the question, because I'm not ready to surrender.
You want to ask the question, why?
I said I'm not ready to surrender, so I'm scared. That's why I didn't talk.
Well, after I gave that talk, I probably wouldn't ask myself a question.
I was curious. So how did you deal with, when you were distributing books and, that lady was actually threatening you kind of, why are you here? So where did you get that courage, and did that prevent you from further book distribution?
In those days, we knew everything. We were so confident. This is what Krishna wants me to do. There was no doubt whatsoever. It may have been naive. We had no fear. We knew Krishna. We really did. I mean, I was in a school and distributing books at a college, and there was 4 of us. I was in charge of the party, and we got caught. The police, they caught us. They brought us to the dean, and in the dean's office, he wants to know what we're doing here. So I told him that there's a story that the Himalayan mountains were going to give birth. And there was this rumor going around. So many people went to the hill of the Himalayan mountains when the mountains were going to give birth. They're so magnanimous. They're so great. They're going to give birth. What is it going to be? And then there was a little earthquake, and a pack of rats came out of a hole in the Himalayan mountains. And then, so I said, and these schools, people look up to these schools. They think so much it's going to come out. And what comes out? A pack of rats. So we're here distributing books to give them some spiritual knowledge. And they said the police are there, and the dean was there, and the dean just told him, just get him out of here. We had no fear. I mean, we knew this, there was no doubt that we might be wrong, or maybe this isn't what Krishna wants. We knew without a doubt this is what Krishna wants. Another time we're doing a fair at I'm not positive. I think it was the Big E, but I don't know. But we had permission to do it, and they kept restricting us. You can't do this. You can't do that. So we had a meeting with the leaders of the fair. There was a bunch of them there. I don't know, 10 people. And I gave them this story, which they thought I was completely nuts at first, but then they kind of figured it out, that there was a man who was building a new house. And in the new house, there's a bathroom, but you should not use the bathroom until you first do the worship in the house. There's puja, but they don't know puja, so worship in the house. And one person there, he said he has to use the bathroom. He has to pass stool. He has to pass stool really bad. And can I use the bathroom? And then he kept saying no, but then he finally said, okay, you can use the bathroom, but if you pass, if you can use the bathroom, but if you pass one drop of urine, I'm going to beat you with this stick. And they all looked at me like I'm completely nuts. So I said, you're doing the same thing to us here. You're saying we can do the fair. We have permission to do it. And you're letting us do it. But you're giving us so many restrictions, we can't do it. And then they realized these guys are not as stupid as they look. But we had no fear. I don't remember ever in the beginning, no matter what happened. We knew Krishna was protecting us. And not just Krishna is protecting us, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I don't know how you get that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, a lot of devotees were made when there was preaching with that risk, for example, in Russia and everywhere. They kind of, went against the government, but of course not face to face, but in a secret way, and preached. And it did make a lot of devotees. But at the same time, there is this fear of breaking law. So I guess, how do we navigate that uncertainty?
How do you navigate what?
How do we navigate that uncertainty? I mean, when it's okay and when it's not okay.
Well, I think in the beginning, when you're naive, you're positive, Krishna gives you protection, just like a little child. A little child that feels completely protected by his parents. But as he goes older, he doesn't have that same feeling anymore. He grows, he's more independent. And as he becomes more independent, he doesn't have that protection from his parents. So similarly, as we become more independent and depending on ourselves, we don't have that same confidence. And Krishna has not given us that protection. But if you actually feel it, totally believe it, he does protect you. It's not, you may have to act in certain ways to do certain things, but you are completely protected, and you are, if you're fully dependent on him, like a child who's fully dependent on his parents. But somehow we don't. But thinking of Russia, I just heard this thing where this man was, I guess he worked for the Russian government, but he also got a little involved in Krishna consciousness, and he spoke on behalf of the devotees. He said, he gave 2 points of why we should let these devotees do what they're doing. They have nothing against the government. There is nothing at all. They're speaking against the government at all. And the other thing is, they take vows to be vegetarian. They don't eat any meat. And he said at that time, there wasn't much meat in Russia. So if you get a whole bunch of people not eating meat, that would be better for the whole country. That was his 2 arguments.
Yeah. I desire to go on book distribution with you, Prabhu. I'm serious, I'm not joking. I do need that empowerment from you one day. If you can take us
I
on.
don't have any. When Krishna left, Arjuna had no potency. I feel like that when I go out on book distribution. I can't do anything anymore. I was really, really good, not really good compared to other devotees, but I'd go out every day and I could do good. I remember collecting $90 a day, selling books. And this was in the 70s when $90 was a lot more than it is. 6 days a week, I would do that. It was a lot, and it was a lot of work, physically exhausting, but we were very happy, and we didn't keep a penny for ourselves. Anyway, that's, it's Krishna. And Prabhupada somehow or other just convinced us. We had full faith in Prabhupada, and he'd say something and we'd accept it. To the degree in which you surrender, to that degree you'll be rewarded accordingly.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing this.
Yeah, but I'm
thank
not
you.
as surrendered as I used to be. Now I'm more independent. Now I'm a little scared. But at least I did for a while really surrender for quite a while. And everyone was. You do anything.
Yeah. It's such a glorious service. I mean, it's the book distributors, who spread this movement. I feel really grateful for what you did, Prabhu, and wonderful stories. And I'm serious, I do want to, get my wife and daughter, they do a good job, but I'm always like, are we breaking the law? I just sit down and chant and they distribute.
I never think about breaking the law. We do anything. We go anywhere. We go inside stores all day. I was inside a store and the guy kicked me out. He said, no, I was in front of the store. I was in front of the store. And he came out and he was so angry. And he says, I want you out of here. In 10 minutes, you better be gone. So I just kept distributing. He came out. He said, I told you, you got to leave. I said, you said I can do it for 10 more minutes. Really got upset. He said, in 10 minutes, he wants me out of here. So I thought he'd let me do it for 10 more minutes. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
I mean, we got arrested. It's not like we didn't go to jail. We go to jail for one day, It's no big deal. As a matter of fact, in India, we were being criticized by the smarter Brahmins because our neck beads have this clip that you open up. Now, originally, our neck beads weren't like that. You would tie them. But when you go to jail, you have to take them off. So we had to cut them. And then you got to get new beads. So then we came up with these clips, and that's why they started putting these clips. So they were criticizing us that we take our beads off. That's why we have this clip. And then they explained to them why we have the clip. So when we go to jail, we can take them off, and then we can put them right back on after we get out of jail. So many devotees were arrested. I just went for a couple of years ago maybe, for some card for travel so that you can go quickly through the lines. I don't even know what you call it.
Yeah, the star card.
I don't know if it's a star card. I know Naranjana Swami has it. He was telling me about it. So I decided I'll do it.
The TSA.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, when I went, he has me down that I was arrested for trespassing and he can't give it to me. And I said, I was just selling Hare Krishna books in a mall and they arrested me. Anyway, the guy gave it to me after I explained to him. He said, I'm not supposed to because that's like a serious offense, trespassing. But he gave it to me because he did believe me. And I did look like, I had my head pretty much shaved. I got some hair now, but he was a nice guy. I wasn't much of a threat. But yeah, so many times. But it was always quick. Another time we went to the courthouse because a devotee was arrested the night before and we went to get him out the next day. So we're there dressed in dhotis, shaved heads, kurtas, bead bags, and we're all chanting japa. And they come over to us and they talk to us, nice, and then they said, what do you got in the bag? They thought we had guns in the bags. They never seen devotees before, you know, so we just travel all over the country. We got arrested in New Jersey, North New Jersey. Oh, it's a big town, big city. Oh, if I saw the map, I don't remember. I think it starts with a P, but I'm not positive. Anyway, we got arrested in this city, and all of us got arrested. And they never seen anything like us. This was in the early 70s. And so he asked where we're from. I said, we're from Boston, you know. He said, I said, did they know you? I said, yeah, you can call the Boston police. They know us or something. So then afterwards, they're letting us go. And I asked, did you call to the Boston police? And he said, yes. And I said, what did they say? He said, you're crazy but harmless.
You know, I cannot believe that you got arrested somewhere you don't know where it is. I mean, that's in itself is unbelievable.
I've got arrested a lot in a lot of places. Yeah, I mean, I could tell you just stories about jail. This I do remember, in Provincetown, we got arrested, a whole bunch of us, because it was the Boston devotees and the New York devotees, and they arrested us all. And what the nice thing is, a lawyer, he was, I don't know how he found out, but he was maybe, I don't know what kind of lawyer, but he met the devotees before, and he came to the temple and he had prasadam, and he helped us. So we all got out of jail without any problem. We were overnight, but the next day we got out without having to pay any fines.
Why is that?
What?
Why did you have not to pay fines?
Because we had a lawyer.
Oh. Was it a devotee lawyer?
No, it was a lawyer, but he met the devotees and he had prasadam from the devotees.
Oh, so he decided to support you.
Yeah, he helped us. Normally you got to pay a fine. Even when you have to pay a fine, I'm still wanted in that same town that I don't even remember because I never paid the fine. They gave, you know, I had like $100 fine, which I never paid. So I got to think of the name of the town. But anyway. So I advise everyone, please go out on book distribution. Don't have any fears. Get arrested. Join the club.
Of course, you are worshiping somebody who was born in a jail. What can we do?
Yeah, that's where he was born. That's pretty bad. At least I wasn't born in a jail. Anyway, thank you for making me remember some of these funny things that happened in the past.
Thank you for these stories, Prabhu. This gives all of us faith who haven't seen those times, the importance of book distribution.
Yeah, everybody did so many things. And I know everybody pretty much was arrested who went on Sankirtan. Anyway.
Even I didn't hear about the Big E. This is the first time I'm hearing it.
About the what?
The Big E one? I had not heard about that one.
Yeah, that story. Because Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada said it when in Mexico City, there was a whole bunch of people and they wanted to hear Prabhupada speak. And the government didn't want him to speak. So they gave him permission to speak, but he can't use any amplification. So then Prabhupada told that story about the passing stool. You can pass stool, but one drop of urine and I'll beat you with this stick.
And you used that story, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was appropriate.
It was. Sure, you hit the point home really well.
Definitely had so much faith. And I do see it as innocent children. We didn't know anything, but we totally accepted. We are completely protected. Nothing can happen. Whatever happens, it's all Krishna's arrangement. I mean, things happen, but we didn't think anything was bad. Nothing really bad happened. We go to jail, big deal. Okay, we're going to end here. And any other quick questions or quick answers to questions?
I have a quick quiz, Prabhu.
Oh, a quiz again. Oh, man. Okay.
Not many questions, but I can.
Don't ask how many times Parimon Prabhu was
It's
arrested.
been to jail.
I don't even know that. Nor do I know where. I know in Texas. I know in North Carolina. Oh, wow. That's another one. I'll just quickly tell you this real quick. We're chanting japa in a shopping center. We're dressed as devotees. We get about 3 or 4 police cars come and surround us. We have our van. They come out with shotguns and they have us against our van. They search us. And then I ask him what someone called up and said we were going to rob the bank. I said, if we were going to rob a bank, why would we dress like this? This is North Carolina. This was in Raleigh, North Carolina. And anyway, then they tell us that we have to leave the city limits. We can't stay here. I said, why? He said, because we'll arrest you. I said, what are you going to arrest us on? He said, indecent exposure.
What?
So we left. Okay, I'm back to the test.
I like the Boston police question.
I know, I like it too. All your police stories reminded me of the time the police came to the East Hartford Temple when we had Govardhan Puja. Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty good.
good thing they didn't check your arrest record at that time.
Oh, that policeman. They
Yeah, he
came.
lied.
We had one policeman come. 2 things. One is he was also a magician. So we started doing some magic tricks.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Vegetarian.
they sent him because he's the only vegetarian on the police force. And he was gonna, because there was someone called and said we were gonna sacrifice the cow, because we all had a cow. You know, we bring a calf every time. And someone said we were gonna sacrifice it. So he was coming to make sure we didn't kill that calf. You know, so he was a good guy. And then I said, we gave him a book, The Higher Taste. And he said, oh, I got that book. That has the kafta balls in it. He knew, he was really good.
Hare Krishna. So I'm sharing my result. So the first question is, what is it like fruitive activities? What is the purpose of the Veda? Gradual elevation to transcendental platform. What is the fifth Veda? It's Mahabharata, mentioned in the book. And what is the beginning of the Vedanta philosophy? Brahma Jigyasa, is correct. And this is our question of the day. What did Boston police say about book distributed devotees? Crazy but harmless. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have one answer for homeless.
You were kind of homeless. You lived in the temple. The temple was your home.
Someone thought a lot about it, probably.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Ras Raj. It was good questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, glories to Prabhupada. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha.
Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Pyari Mohan Prabhu ki jai.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
class,
you.
Pyari.
Hare Krishna.
And you were not prepared.
Yeah, well, I was prepared, but for a different verse.